Dear viewers, welcome back to Think BRICS. I'm Lorenzo Pacini, and today we are joined by Max Civili, an independent, experienced journalist and Press TV correspondent. Max, thank you so much for joining us in such a key moment of the history.
Hi Lorenzo, thanks for having me.
So, Max, let's start with your personal point of view and your experience. What pushed you to work with a foreign media outlet, in particular from Iran, that we know is not considered such a good country, but is in the list of the bad boys? It's surely not about for the paycheck, right? So tell me, what values or convictions has guided you in your choice to tell the stories from this perspective?
I'm afraid I will let you down with my first answer, Lorenzo. As a matter of fact, initially I did start collaborating with the Iranian state broadcaster Press TV out of necessity rather than by choice. It was 2011. I had just moved back to Italy from Sydney in Australia, where I spent around 11 years. Australia had been a great training ground, professionally speaking, and I had worked for almost 10 years with the Australian public broadcaster SBS. But upon my return to Italy, things got very difficult. I could not find a job as a journalist. I did not have friends in right places, nor connections with influential people. So, as everybody does, I sent out my CV to all major media outlets in Italy, and I found myself with just one reply, that of the Iranian state broadcaster Press TV. Then, to cut a long story short, thanks to a series of coincidences, I began filing reports for Press TV as a correspondent from Rome, and that's when things started to take off. Those were the years of the austerity measures that were inflicted by the Troika on the Europeans, the years of the financialization of our economy. Press TV's editorial line on Europe back then mainly focused on the many contradictions of neoliberalism with its commercialization of everyday life, its privatization schemes, its recipe for social butchery. And in those years, I produced scores of television stories presenting the deteriorating living conditions of more and more Italians, presenting the impact on the lives of several disgraced economic policies adopted by the Italian governments back then, mainly in the interest of the private sector companies. And I also try to recount how Italy and the EU were sinking into moral and political degradation. That's at this very point, and I'm getting to the core of your question when you asked me about what guided my choice when I decided to tell my stories from this very non-mainstream perspective. The answer is very much straightforward. I simply could not go back to being a disempowered reporter after having regained power over my own understanding of the world outside, thanks to Press TV. I could have tried to go back to work for a mainstream media, but I think I would have felt completely out of place, completely I would have felt unease, like a fish out of water. So today, advocating for the voiceless in the global south, but also in our declining Western countries, presenting their plight, their demands, I think these are my objectives today, professionally speaking.
Thank you, Max. That's a powerful reminder that journalism is at its core a human choice. So please let's stay on the media aspect for a moment, because our goal today is to help you, our viewers, to navigate the overwhelming volumes of news and misinformation that spreads especially during moments like these. So, Max, about what's happening in this conflict. We know in times of war and heightened tension, medias become both a witness and a weapon. From your experience reporting on Iran and the region, how do you navigate the thin line between factual reporting and the propaganda narratives pushed by all sides, of course? And what responsibility do journalists carry when lives and perceptions hang in the balance?
Look, there was one question that I asked myself when I started to work for Press TV 13 years ago, 14 years ago. And this question made me get off my Western trained journalist standpoint and see things from a different perspective. And the question was, why is Iran always portrayed in a negative light? Why is Iran always depicted as an irrational villain? So what I did back then to answer this question is what I do today to avoid being swamped by conflicting propaganda narratives. I read articles, stories, essays written by reliable, authoritative Western academics or geopolitical analysts who are critical of the version provided by Western governments and their intelligence agencies, or by our mainstream academia or by mainstream media, and I compare the point of view with that of the Iranians. As a result, I've come to realize that the whole of the West has been forced to accept the US-Israel campaign to demonize Iran all along, since the 1979 revolution. The objective was and has been to delegitimize the Islamic Republic of Iran to the point that the international public opinion would passively accept every single act of hostility against the Iranians, from inhumane sanctions that have resulted in the loss of hundreds of thousands of people in Iran over the past decades, to the slaughter of nuclear scientists, and today to the slaughter of 165 little girls and their teachers at a primary school in a small Iranian town. This is, to me, this is completely insane. And everybody can see what's happening today following the unprovoked, illegal, brutal US-Israel attacks on Iran. And the assassination of Iran's head of state, Khamenei, and his family. Practically 99% of all Western media support the American-Israelis justification for the Iran war, even though these justifications change every day. One day they say it was to obliterate the nuclear program, the next day that the US attacked Iran because they thought Tehran was going to strike first, and then the next day they say, no, we wanted to destroy Iran's ballistic missile program. So Western media keeps repeating the same lies fabricated by the corrupt establishments, period. There's no doubt that in the current global scenario, journalism is droning. Journalists are a pawn in corrupt or at best biased media outlets that belong to the same dominant groups which support Western wars against the global South, who is now finally and rightly daring to raise its head.
So really important insight, Max. Thank you so much. And for all of you watching us live, if you have a question about the war in Iran and what's going on, please write down, comment, and we will discuss about the topics you will suggest us. So now, Max, please, building on what you just shared, we're seeing growing push from the global south, the BRICS nations too, and Iran itself, of course, to all the new independent media outlets that should counterbalance the dominant Western narratives. So, please tell me, based on your work across different systems, you said you started in Australia, now you are on Iranian international media. What practical steps do you think are the most urgent for these emerging voices to gain credibility and reach?
Look, it's hard to stay optimistic when it comes to building independent media voices in the current geopolitical scenario. We're living times of growing censorship here in Europe, and obviously the West, its multinational corporation system, its financial groups, which have depredated a big chunk of the wealth belonging to the West itself, to the Western peoples themselves. These entities are in a kind of war with the global South, and the reason for that is because the West felt threatened the BRICS countries by the BRICS countries' attempts to establish a new international payment system outside the dollar. And that has made the US and its allies and the financial groups that run them all very insecure. These Western entities don't simply see the BRICS as an economic challenge, they see it as an existential threat and as a cause for war. And that's exactly what they're doing. The West is waging hybrid wars against Venezuela, Iran, Russia, China, and against the very core of the BRICS. And this war also includes muffling, toning down alternative voices. So as long as I deem extremely useful the creation of media like Think BRICS and others and other medias, so media that can counterbalance dominant Western narratives, I see the spread, the diffusion, very complicated in the long run. Having said that, resources and expertise are essential to building reputable new media. I'm not saying anything new or clever here, but again, the scale of the outreach of this media, I'm afraid, would not be in the hands of these new outlets if they broadcast through technologies that are controlled by the Western establishment.
That's a great point, Max. Thank you. And for everybody who is joining us, this is Max Civili, and he's talking us about what's going on in Iran. Please comment, share, put your like, and share with us your opinions about this interview. So, Max, we really need to talk about the confirmation we had of Sayed Mojtaba Khamenei, who has been elected as the new Iran's supreme leader, the third since the beginning of the Islamic Revolution. From your perspective on the ground and within Iranian media circles, what does this choice signal about the balance of power between the clerical establishment, the Pasdaran militaries, and the broader political class? And also, how might this transition be perceived differently inside Iran versus in Western capitals?
Look, in my view, the appointment of Mojtaba Khamenei as the new supreme leader is a clear sign that Iran is not bending, that it is not backing down, and that it is not a conciliatory mood with its enemies. Quite the contrary, the Assembly of Experts has chosen a man who has just lost his father, his mother, wife, and child following an Israeli bombing just over a week ago. In addition to all this, US President Trump had warned repeatedly against electing the son of the martyred Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei to lead the country. And this opposition by Trump has also played in favor of the appointment of Mojtaba Khamenei. Let me remind everybody that Trump had said he wanted to be involved in the selection and that Iran would follow the path of Venezuela in selecting a leader willing to answer Washington's demands. The This decision, the decision of appointing Mojtaba Khamenei, can be seen as a show of defiance against the United States. I was in Iran a couple of years ago, and I remember being told by authoritative political analysts that Khamenei's son wasn't at the time the favorite candidate for the succession of the supreme leader. But this second unprovoked war waged by Israel and the US, once again in the middle of indirect negotiations between Iran and the US, like in June last year, and the killing of Ali Khamenei has completely changed the scenario. Now, the appointment of Khamenei's son has been received with uniform appreciation by Iran's defensive and political apparatuses, from what we learn. On Monday morning, millions of Iranians took to the streets of Tehran, Tabriz, Shiraz, and all other major cities across Iran to pledge their allegiance to the new leader of the Islamic Revolution. And it goes without saying that these rallies of loyalty to the new supreme leader were given little space, if no space at all, on Western media. In this phase, the Iranian people have emerged even more unified after this new wave of attacks by Israel and the US. Even some of those who have opposed the Islamic Republic have changed their mind for now in the face of such an existential threat by the US and Israel. The Iranians are aware that Netanyahu's goal is not just a regime change, but it's ethnic fragmentation. It's the Syrianization of the country, which, if achieved, it would lead to the end of Iran as we know it. What else can we say on Mojtaba Khamenei? He's known for keeping a low public profile throughout the years. He has made an effort not to be associated with any particular political current in the country. He has maintained strong ties with figures associated with the axis of resistance. He's shared particularly close relationship with the slain leader of the Lebanese resistance movement, Hezbollah, Nasrallah. He also maintained a long-standing relationship with the General Qasem Soleimani. He's a leader that, of course, it has caused controversy over the past days, particularly on the Western media. But from what we learn from the Iranian press, Iranians have great trust in his capacity.
Max, thanks a lot again. And as missiles and diplomacy styles and ordinary people across the region are living with uncertainty, fear, and hope. From your vantage point reporting on Iran and the Middle East, what is the one thing that you wish international audiences understood? And not about the politics of the weapons, but about the people. We're talking about human matter, people which are looking forward to the escalation. And in a world of competing narratives, where can viewers turn for reporting they can actually trust?
Look, 300, 400,000 people, depending if we refer to the region where the conflict is taking place as the Middle East or West Asia, are currently on the edge, are holding their breath. I'm not sure if the path toward de-escalation is still accessible, if it is still practicable at this stage. One possibility is that Trump acknowledges that he has made a big mistake by starting this war to please Israel, and that he ends the war as soon as possible, as he did in Yemen last year after a 7-week campaign against the Houthi. The problem is that the US changes its mind practically every day. Yesterday we had Trump saying that the war could end very soon, but then the markets stem losses. So today, US War Minister Hegseth said that the US will end the war, quote, on our timeline. But the US wanting to end the war might not be enough, because on the other side, Tehran wants to make sure that the cost of this war for the US and Israel is as high as possible, so that Washington and Tel Aviv never think about attacking Iran again. The Iranian authorities said that they are prepared to continue attacking indefinitely, while the Pasdaran warned that the security and stability in West Asia is either for everyone or for no one. As we're speaking, and this is quite worrying, US Senator Richard Blumenthal left a Senate Armed Service Committee. It's a briefing on the Iran war, saying that he believes that the Trump administration is on a path to putting US troops on the ground in Iran. This is a very dangerous option, and an option that could wane the trust that the Americans have in the tycoon, a trust that has already been largely eroded after the attacks on Iran that started on February 28. And also the conflict risks expanding and including NATO countries. And I invite those who are listening to watch out for false flags here. And I'm referring in particularly to the NATO member Turkey, and the news that an Iranian ballistic missile was destroyed as it was heading into Turkish airspace a few days ago. The Iranian Armed Forces General Staff has denied it had fired any missile at Turkey, saying that the Islamic Republic respected the quote, sovereignty of friendly Turkey. So we have to remain very vigilant when we read the news. We always have to compare the content produced by our Western news media and Iran's produced media. And yeah, as I said, it is important that we are always skeptical about what we learn from newspapers. Always skeptical. That's the secret.
Thank you, Max. Thank you so much. This is exactly the kind of grounded and human-centered perspectives that we need right now. This is Think BRICS. Thanks for joining us. Please remember to share this interview, put your like, comment, and see you to the next occasion. Bye-bye.